Support comes from the Wiregrass Archives at Troy University's Dothan campus, identifying and preserving historical documents and photographs for research related to the Wiregrass region. More information at troy.edu/wiregrassarchives.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. The Battle of Horseshoe Bend led to Alabama becoming a state, and one of the key figures in that story was Andrew Jackson. Dr. Kathryn Braund is a well-known historian and author of the book, Mapping Conquest, The Battle Maps of Horseshoe Bend. She joins us as we look ahead to a special event commemorating the broader history of Alabama. Dr. Kathryn Braund, welcome back to Troy Public Radio.
Thank you for having me, Carolyn.
You and I have known each other for years, so we're on a first-name basis. There is an important symposium coming up.
On August 22nd, the annual Horseshoe Bend National Military Park Symposium will take place at Auburn University at Pebble Hill Center for the Arts and Humanities. And the event is open to the public, and we have 4 speakers lined up.
Kathryn, Mapping Conquest, the battle maps of Horseshoe Bend, is about a pivotal moment in Alabama's history. Why was it so important?
The Battle of Horseshoe Bend was the last and largest battle of the Creek Indian War that took place in 1813 and ended in 1814. The war was one of the largest, if not the largest, battle between United States troops and Native Americans in American history. On that battlefield on March 27, 1814, nearly 1,000 Red Stick Creeks were killed. This was an overwhelming American victory. It ended the Creek War, and the price of losing that war was the loss of over 21 million acres of land that went to the U.S., and this is the beginning of the Alabama Territory and quickly statehood, because all that land that they lost was primarily in the state of Alabama and was immediately opened up to settlement.
I want to refer to a part of your book that says the most important question about this battle is one that maps do not address. Why did the Creeks choose to fortify that place? Was there spiritual significance to the site, as some have asked? When you stand at Horseshoe Bend, it is chilling to look at that battle site. Why did the Creeks think they were protected?
This is a question we really can't answer. We can only speculate. At the very end of 1813 is a massive invasion of the Creek country by troops from Tennessee. We're not talking about battles in which only armies clash. We're talking about, what do you do with a civilian population? You can either get on the run or you can try to defend yourselves. We do know these Creek towns started coming together in places they viewed as being defensible so they could defend civilian population. If you go to Horseshoe Bend and that wonderful, beautiful flat bend of the river, that is where the civilian population was housed in a village, Tehopica. There were many women and children there, and the Red Stick Creeks, who were trying to defend their families, began to build this massive wall in front of this village between the sides of the river, enclosing the Horseshoe Bend for protection. Tehopica means fortification in the Muskogee language. It was an incredible feat of military engineering, and I believe that the idea they had was that if assaulted, they would be able to defend that wall, and if not, the idea was to put their civilian populations in canoes and evacuate.
Why didn't that plan work?
The real problem was they did not anticipate the numbers that Andrew Jackson would bring with him. He had 3,000 men and was able to totally encircle that bend and prevent the escape of most non-combatants.
Why didn't the people who were behind the barricade realize that they were vulnerable from the side of the river?
That is $1 million question. This little spot of land was across the river, the Tallapoosa, from a town that had been burned, Nyaka. It was believed to be a place that this massive barricade could defend. It was just simply a miscalculation, I think. But when you have horsemen surrounding the bend and then a two-pronged attack, one from the rear as the Cherokees and others crossed the river and began attacks in the village, as well as the U.S. Army attacking from the front and the barricade, it was pretty hopeless.
Were there any places in that barricade that showed a vulnerability?
That is one thing the little manuscript maps reveal, and that's what my book really focuses on, these manuscript maps drawn largely by officers who were on the site of the battle. A sally port in that massive wall barricade. If you go to the park, you will see wonderful paintings of Americans climbing over this tall wall to get to the Red Sticks. But there was also a break in the wall. That is how some of the American combatants got through. One of my favorite maps actually calls it out. He specifically says, "This is the sally port, which was a small avenue through which a man could just pass."
Kathryn, remind us why the Cherokees sided with the Americans.
The Creek Nation itself was allied with the United States in this effort, but the Cherokees did it to prove their loyalty to the United States. Individual men did it because it was a way to express yourself as a warrior, to gain honor.
I've heard it said that at Horseshoe Bend, Andrew Jackson made his national reputation.
Indeed, he did, and he only became more famous after his victory at New Orleans in the War of 1812, but he was given that command after this stunning victory at Horseshoe Bend. The Creek War of 1813 and the War of 1812 are not the same conflicts, but they're concurrent, and when Jackson and those Tennesseans had this massive victory against the Creek Indians at Horseshoe Bend, he immediately became a national hero, hailed for his military genius, if you will. And we know he did that at New Orleans as well.
How many people participated in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend on both sides?
We know that Jackson had about 3,000 troops. There were about 1,000 Red Sticks. There were women and children there. Hundreds were killed and some were captured and enslaved by the Cherokee and by some Americans. Conservatively, there were 4,000 people at that site that day. And when you take into account the enslaved people that the Americans brought with them that we have virtually no record of, but we know they were there. When you think about the men who were able to escape the slaughter of the Red Sticks, the women and children who likely were evacuated before the battle, we're talking at least 4,000 people. So it was a massive battle site.
Kathryn, you've used the term Red Stick Creeks. Who were they?
The Red Stick Creeks were a faction of the Upper Creek Nation who raised the Red Stick of War against their own leadership. They were insurgents, and the reason we call them Red Sticks, as they were called in the 19th century, the Red Clubs, is that when you were about to declare war as the Creek Indian, you would prepare a club to be used in war and then raise it up and symbolically declare war, and it would be painted red with the blood of your enemies. So that is a Red Stick, a symbolic way to declare war.
Remind us one more time about the Memory and Meaning and the Creek War Symposium, Saturday, August 22nd.
If you look at the Friends of Horseshoe Bend Facebook page or the Horseshoe Bend National Military Park Facebook page, you can get all the information. The event will be 9 a.m. until noon at the Auburn University Center for the Arts and Humanities, Pebble Hill. It is free, open to the public, and refreshments will be served.
Well, I want to thank you for your visit today. And again, your book, Mapping Conquest, The Battle Maps of Horseshoe Bend. It is a beautiful book, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, Carolyn.
That was Dr. Kathryn Braund. Horseshoe Bend National Military Park is located in Daviston, Alabama. Thanks for joining us for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is Troy Public Radio.